Hello, besties. Welcome and welcome back to It's Always About Me podcast. And I'm so grateful you have been on this journey with me through this season. I can't believe this is the last episode of this season. Anyways, through the episodes in self worth, self love, facing shame, owning mistakes, and in episode 9, forgiving yourself and moving forward. That work, letting go of the past, making peace with what you couldn't control, is essential. But letting go isn't enough if you don't build guardrails around your life so that peace has a chance to stay. Because here's what I had discovered, and maybe you have too. Peace is fragile, especially when boundaries are weak or non existent. Without them, old wounds, unhealthy expectations, and external noise sneak in. So, this final episode is kind of a celebration, but also a call to action, creating healthy boundaries to protect your peace, to help you not only forgive yourself, but also guard your heart, your mind, your time, your energy. We will explore what boundaries truly are and why they matter, how to recognize when your boundaries are weak, how to define the boundaries you need, how to communicate and hold them with courage, and how to protect and maintain them long term so your peace stays intact. If this season has resonated with you, this is the chapter where you take everything you have learned and build something that lasts. I invite you to lean in, reflect with me, maybe pause when needed, and imagine how your life might shift once you protect your peace. Chapter 1. What are boundaries? Why they matter? When I say boundaries, what do I mean? Not walls, not shutting people out, but rather limits that protect your energy, your values, your peace. Boundaries are the agreements you have with yourself about what you will accept, what you won't, and how you will act. They are the lines between what's yours and what someone else's. Your emotions, your responsibilities, your space, your time. Without sufficient boundaries, you end up giving away pieces of your time, your mood, your sense of worth, sometimes without even noticing. Why do they matter? Because more than forgiveness, more than self love, though those are foundational, boundaries are what keep your healing steady. Forgiving yourself is essential. It frees you from shame and regret. But without boundaries, that freedom can be eroded by toxic relationships, by overcommitment, or by self neglect. Also, boundaries are one of the main ways you live your values. If you say you value rest, but never say no to extra tasks, you betray that value. Boundaries align your life outwardly with your inner truths. I want you to think of peace as a garden. Forgiveness is tilling the soil. Your inner work pulling weeds. Boundaries are the fence. We keep the pest out. They protect what you have cultivated. Chapter 2. Signs your boundaries are weak or missing. So, how do you know you need stronger boundaries? Many of us feel like something is off, but we can't name it. Here are some of the signals, maybe you recognize them. 1. You often feel drained after being with people. You go in with energy but leave feeling wiped. You are observing other people's mood, expectations, sometimes play. 2. You say yes when you mean no, or you don't speak up. Maybe you fear rejection, conflict, or being disliked. You put others first constantly. You overextend. 3. Guilt or shame when you think of exerting your limits. The voice in your head says, I should do it anyway or I will let them down. 4. You fear setting boundaries because of what people might think. Maybe family, maybe friends or co-workers. The cost seems higher than the reward. 5. Resentment builds up. You find yourself irritated, feeling taken for granted, but you don't express what's wrong. Instead, used to. 6. Sometimes physical signs, exhaustion, burnout, anxiety, when you're always on. If you identify with any of these, you are in the territory where boundaries are needed. And that's okay. Recognizing them is the first step. Chapter 3, How to Define Your Boundaries. What you need. Once you know you need them, how do you figure out what boundaries you need? This is very individual. What protects someone else's may not be sufficient for you, and that's fine. Start with values. Start with values. What are the values you want to live by? What feels like peace? What feels like your life when you feel respected, honored, seen? Write them down. For example, rest, integrity, kindness, honesty, autonomy. Then imagine what validates those values for you. If rest is important, perhaps being asked to work late without warning violates that. If kindness is important, perhaps being spoken to harshly violates it. You need to map my value, what supports it, what violates it. Then look at your relationships and roles family, friends, work, romantic, community. For each area, ask what boundaries do I already have? Which are missing? Which ones do I violate of my own? For example, in work, I won't check email after 8 p.m. or I will say no to projects outside my role. Also, pay attention to self boundaries with your own mind, emotions, time. Often we ignore those. For example, I won't ruminate over negative thoughts for hours, or I will take breaks even if I feel guilty. This defining process isn't once and done. Over time, you will find you need to adjust. But once you have clarity, enforcing becomes easier. Chapter 4, Communicating and Holding Them. Having boundaries is one thing, holding them is another. This is where the discomfort often is. Here's how to approach. First, practice stating them. Simple, clear, kind, but firm. Use I statements. I need, I prefer, I will not. For example, instead of you shouldn't message me after work hours. Try I need time to unwind after work, so I won't respond to messages after 8 p.m. Second, prepare for pushback. Some people will resist, maybe they will guilt trip you or try to make you feel selfish. That's normal. What you're doing is self care. The resistance isn't always about you. Sometimes it's about them being used to no boundaries. Third, consistency is key. If you sometimes enforce, sometimes allow, then others will test and boundaries will be blurred. Consistency, even in small things, helps others learn what your limits are. Fourth, self compassion when you slip or feel guilty. Setting boundaries triggers shame in many of us who have been people pleasers. That voice will say, maybe I'm being too harsh. What if they are upset? That's okay. You can reassure yourself my peace matters, I deserve respect, my boundaries are not arbitrary. Fifth, small wins. Start with something manageable, maybe with a friend rather than your boss, or with one boundary rather than many. Celebrate when you hold one that builds confidence and internal trust. Chapter 5, Maintaining Boundaries Long Term and Protecting Your Peace. Boundaries aren't set and forget it. They need maintenance, reevaluation, courage over time. First, check in with yourself regularly. How do you feel? Tired, resentful, overwhelmed? If yes, your boundary might be slipping or compromised. Reassess. Second, learn to say no without over explaining. You don't owe long justification. Respect can coexist with brevity. No, I can't is enough. Third, surround yourself with people who respect your boundaries. Over time, your social landscape may change. Some relationship will stretch with you, others won't. That's okay. Distance or redefining rules is healthy when necessary. Fourth, protect your self boundaries to resist internal erosion. The patterns, beliefs, or emotional reflexes that violate your own peace. Self awareness, therapy, journaling, meditation. The work you have already done via forgiveness and self reflection is still useful here. Fifth, rituals and practices to reinforce peace. Maybe a weekly review of boundary successes, failures, maybe time for rest built in, maybe communication reminders, perhaps journaling what feels safe versus unsafe to keep your internal compass. Finally, accept that sometimes enforcing boundaries will cost something. You might hurt someone, they might be upset, but peace, your peace, is worth that cost. And often, those around you will eventually understand, or you will adjust your relationship to better protect mutual respect. As we close this season, I wanted to sit with this. You have journeyed a long way just by doing the work, forgiving yourself, letting go of blame, facing your fears. Boundaries are not the end, they are the next frontier of peace. My hope for you is that as you move forward, you don't just survive your life, you protect the spaces where you thrive. That you learn to guard your peace with kindness, clarity, and courage. That peace is not fragile but resilient. If there's one takeaway, your inner freedom, your sense of calm, is sacred. It deserves boundaries. You deserve them, and you are capable of creating them. And although this is the last episode of season 1, this is not a goodbye. We will be back with season 2 very soon. In the meantime, I will be sharing bonus episodes outside of the main season. Little reflections and conversation to keep us connected. You will be able to find those on my YouTube channel, Speed Call. It will be linked in the bio. You can go through that. And here's on Spotify under It's Always About Me podcast. Thank you for traveling the season with me. Thank you for listening, reflecting, forgiving, and growing. We will take a short pause and then come back with more in the next season. More stories, more courage, more tools. Until then, be gentle with yourselves. Rest in the space you have created. Let your peace breathe.